What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Packer Perspective. We are back after another tough game with our Green Bay Packers. We went on to tie the Dallas Cowboys 40-40. Today we're going to recap the game, let it out a little bit, get a good vent session in, and then we're going to do our weekly player tier rankings from this past week. But before we get into all that, if you guys could go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're a fellow Packer fan. I'm here all week long for the rest of the season, breaking down everything Green Bay. So let's get into it. Unfortunately, guys, we have back-to-back tough week for our Packers. In week 3, we dropped a game to the Cleveland Browns on the road. Now we go week 4 into Dallas, Micah's revenge game, and we tie 40-40. Can't lie, the tie feels a little bit like a loss. I would imagine most people who are Packer fans feel the same way. From the Cowboys fans I talk to, it kind of feels more like a win for them. When you're 7-point favorites and you have the expectations that the Packers have had, not winning that game is tough. And it's interesting because something I think we all thought was the least likely outcome was our defense giving up 40 points to this Dallas Cowboys team, missing CeeDee Lamb and some offensive line help. It happened. It's unfortunate, but we're going to sit here, we're going to talk about it, we're going to vent about it, and then we're going to have to move on. And it's that simple. And I know, again, we talked about this last week, about Matt LaFleur getting fired. You know, I know a lot of people out there feel very strongly that Matt LaFleur should be getting fired. Had multiple people in my comments on some of the videos here recently, some people on Twitter talking about Matt LaFleur needs to be fired. And my question to you guys that think that, who takes over from Matt LaFleur? Who are we going to bring in or promote from within that is going to be better than Matt LaFleur? Is it going to be Rich Bisaccia, who's the highest paid special teams coordinator in the league, that week after week and year after year has consistently gave us one of the worst special team units in the entire league? Is it going to be Jeff Hafley, whose defense just gave up 40 points against the Dallas Cowboys offense? I think the reality here is losing Matt LaFleur does not make us better. It simply doesn't. And we can pretend that firing Matt LaFleur is going to give this team a boost. That's fairy tale stuff, guys. There's nobody out there that's going to be better than Matt LaFleur today for this Green Bay Packers. Am I saying in the future is that the case? Absolutely not. Who knows what the future holds? As of right now, with the team that we have, the unit that is assembled, firing Matt LaFleur does not make us better. But on the other hand, guys, we can sit here and we can say that firing Matt LaFleur does not make us better. But in addition to that, we can also sit here and say that Matt LaFleur has some flaws. I think Matt LaFleur is a very, very high-level play caller. I feel very confident about that. I have a very strong offensive mind. I think that some of his in-game situational stuff is worrisome, and I think that's kind of been a struggle for the last several years. He's very conservative on his approach when it comes to a 4th and 2 on the 50-yard line. Specifically, guys, when we contextualize that a little bit and we look at how this Packers offense looked against this Cowboys defense and kind of what to expect from that. And I think we all expected this Packers offense to move the ball at will, and that is quite literally what happened. Jordan Love had a phenomenal game. Josh Jacobs had his best game of the season. This Packers offense was playing really, really well at a high level. There were multiple times I felt like Matt LaFleur should have been a little bit more aggressive offensively. We're going to touch on the overtime here in a second, but specifically in that game when the Packers are up 7-0, 4th and 2 at the 50, you're moving the ball at will. Not going for that in a 4th and 2, I felt like was a very poor decision. You got to have faith in this offense to be able to move the ball. I don't like that conservative mindset. And my biggest issue with Matt LaFleur is I feel like there's a lot of inconsistency with why and when he chooses to be conservative versus be aggressive, right? For instance, being aggressive with 19 seconds left in the first half from your 16-yard line to try to get in field goal range, that doesn't feel aggressive. That feels reckless, right? I don't see how you can weigh that compared to a 4th and 2 on your own 50 that just gives your team a better chance of winning this football game. And so for me, that is the biggest issue. Is there's no rhyme or reason. We've seen this last year. We saw this last year against Minnesota. It was like a 4th and 3 or 4th and 2 from the 3-yard line early on in the Minnesota game. He decided to kick a field goal a little bit later. It was a 4th and 4 at like the 20 or something like that, and he goes for it, and it was like a jet sweep, right? It feels very gut-based. And I think the benefit of utilizing analytics and going for it more on these 4th downs, if you do it more consistently, is that, you're not going to be perfect. That's just not reality. But over the course of time, in the long run, you should come out ahead. But this picking and choosing, I feel, is very, very bad. And it just puts you in bad spots of, sometimes you're going to get it, sometimes you're not. When do you go for it? When you don't. So I think I would like a little bit more consistency when it comes to that for him. And I like to use this analogy in blackjack. So if you have blackjack and you get dealt a 16, right? And the dealer is showing a 10. You always want to assume the dealer has a 10 underneath. And so if you have 16, do you hit or do you stay? Well, I think regardless of what you choose to do, you should just do that every time. You shouldn't have 16 and one time say, I'm gonna stay, right? And then the dealer flips over, dealer has a 6, hits again, hits a 5, you would have had the 5, you lose. And then the next time you're like, oh, okay, well, this time I'm gonna hit. And this time you get a 10 and you bust. That kind of is the analogy I like to use for this, because you're just playing roulette here, right? It's like you're trying to get lucky on when you go for it, when not to go for it. And I think a little bit more consistency in this would do this team a lot of good. Now, when we talk about that overtime, that was really, really bad. That was pretty much inexcusable. Getting the ball with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left and still not forcing the ball into the end zone when we got on their other side of the field, running the ball with 48 seconds left in overtime. He quite literally played that game not to lose. And he succeeded. The Packers didn't lose. We tied. So he got the outcome that apparently it felt like he was trying to play for. I know obviously he says differently, of course, but that's what it felt like. It felt like he was too scared to give the ball back to Cowboys with any amount of time left, because he thought Brandon Aubrey was going to be able to kick a game-winning field goal, which then just goes to the point of, do you receive the ball or do you kick the ball in overtime? This is a tough one. I get the reasoning of why you want to kick, because you want to have a chance to win it, but we were in that situation, and it felt like he was too concerned with giving them the ball back. And I think the math would probably show that receiving the ball is better, because you are more likely to get 2 possessions compared to 1. But neither here or there, the lack of aggression in overtime was really bad. Our quarterback had one of the best games I've seen in a long time from him. He was absolutely killing this Dallas defense. And the fact that he was unable to have a chance late in that game to go and win. After the last 5 possessions the Packers had, Jordan Love got us touchdowns or field goals. Right? He basically had 3 game winning or tying drives late in that game. Scored the touchdown to Romeo with a minute and a half left. Our defense then goes and gives up a touchdown in 3 plays. Then 38 seconds left, drives his team in a field goal range, sent to overtime. Late in the game, or late in overtime with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left, he drove us down there again, and we settled for a field goal. He should have allowed Love to go out there and win or lose us that game, because Jordan Love earned that. He absolutely earned that. Now, guys, when we talk about special teams, Rich Pistachio, this is a guy I think should legitimately get fired. And I'm very careful when I talk about coaches getting fired. I think generally there's a lot of overreaction when it comes to that. Rich Pistachio is absolutely worthy of getting fired. I don't know how many years in a row, week after week, year after year, that we have to see this special teams struggle the way it does. From blocked field goals and extra points to kickoff returns where we're allowing the other team get to the 45, 50-yard line almost every single time. The penalties on special teams. It is just so consistently bad in so many areas that I just do not understand how he still has a job and how he's the highest paid special teams coordinator in the NFL. I don't. That to me is bad. Something needs to change there and change there in a hurry because of all the issues that we talk about with Green Bay. When we talk about Matt LaFleur, we talk about the offense, we talk about the defense. The special teams is the biggest worry for me. That is a legit concern because special teams can lose you games when you are in the playoffs playing against very good teams. And that is the reality. All right, so let's talk about the defense. The defense was a struggle, which was a surprise. I knew that Dak has played really well. I think Dak is a very good quarterback. I think he's extremely underrated. But I'd be lying if I would say that I did not think that without CeeDee Lamb, without some of their offensive line help, that this Packers defense, Packers pass rush was going to be able to get to the ball, was going to be able to make Dak uncomfortable, and that really wasn't the case. We'll go over some of the individual players. We do our player tiers. But overall, that was very disappointing. Again, I want to just more than, that was the first time we've happened in 4 games. Okay, we played a really good Lions team, didn't happen. A really good Washington team, didn't happen. The Browns not very good, but the defense played at a very high level in that game. I want to be able to give this defense the benefit of the doubt and think that this was just a bad game. Overall, I'm still very optimistic about this defense going forward. If we see it again, right, if this team comes out of the bye and we go against this Bengals team that looks absolutely terrible, and this game is close or we tie or we lose, give up 30, 40 points, then I think we need to have a conversation about this defense. But for now, I'm not too worried about them. I don't want to spend too much time dwelling on that. Like I said earlier, I felt like this offense played really well. Jordan Love played elite. I think Jordan Love firmly put himself back in that MVP conversation. And guys, generally, I do not like week 5 buys. I don't. I feel like it's too early. I generally like the buys from like week 9 on, right? After we play a bunch of games in the season, these guys are worn down. It's a good little break in the middle of the season, and then you come back after for a stretch run to get into the playoffs. I think this is needed. I think this could be a blessing in disguise. I think we have a lot of injuries. D. Wyatt, a bunch of other guys. Micah got hurt a little bit in that game. Just a bunch of guys overall where I feel like they need to get healthy. And I feel like not only does the team need to get healthy, I think they need a bye week to reflect on these past 2 games. Right? A lot of film work needs to be done in between week 4 and between week 6. And I'm optimistic this team is going to be able to rebound and get back to the team that we kind of thought they were in the first 2 weeks. It's a long, long season, guys. And I just ask that we keep that in mind. All right, guys, so let's get into these player tiers. All right, guys. Again, these we go a little bit more rapid fire. I don't want to spend too much time going into detail. We'll talk about specific players for sure. But like I said, overall, not going to spend too much time. So here we got Aaron Banks, who's inactive, so we will put him down here. I'm going to kind of move some of these guys who did not play. Let's see, Jane Reed out, Zach Tom out. I think those were mostly the ones. All right, we're going to start Romeo Doubs. S tier. What a game from Rome. Something about Romeo is different this year, guys. He looks very, very good. His energy is really high, something I felt like was missing a little bit last year. He feels very confident. Him in the goal line and the red zone area is just so effective. That little double move that he does, fakes the outside slant across the middle, it's reminiscent of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. It's like that type of connection, I feel like, and he's emerged as Jordan Love's favorite target. All right, Edgerrin Cooper, D. This, to me, was the worst game Edgerrin Cooper had. There was multiple missed tackles that he had, which is very rare. I thought he wasn't very good out in coverage either. Allowed multiple receptions. It was a tough game for Edgerrin Cooper. And guys, to be honest, opposite of last week, it feels like that we're going to have a lot of the defensive guys here in the C and D range and a lot more offensive guys, towards the top. which that's the way it goes sometimes. All right. Let's see here. We got Evan Williams. All right. I thought this was actually a decent game for Evan Williams. I'm going to put him at a B. I think he had about eight or nine tackles in this game. I thought he had a step-up performance from week 3. I felt like he wasn't as good there, but I thought Evan Williams was effective in coverage tonight. I don't feel like either one of the safeties really struggled too much, to be honest with you. We talked about the corners. That's a different story, but I thought he was okay. Rashawn Gary is a D. He had 0 pressures, right? In a game where we saw Micah get double-teamed a lot, Rashawn Gary was simply unable to win his one-on-one matchups and get home. 0 pressures for him against this offensive line when Micah's getting doubled at the rate he is. It's just inexcusable. I thought that was a very bad Rashawn Gary game, by far the worst game he's had. Matthew Golden, that's an A. I'm going to put him in A, but to be honest, if we are kind of talking special teams, there's a chance he could be a B. I think he kind of struggles a little bit back there. You can tell he's a rookie. He kind of rakes those rookie mistakes. That little spin move that he did, I thought it was an issue, but offensively, I thought he was really good. He's had 2 really strong games back-to-back. He has really good hands. He had that nice catch on 4th and 6 in overtime to move the sticks. I thought he played very well, so I'm optimistic about Matthew Golden going forward. I think he can continue to bounce off these games, and I also expect a bigger leap for him coming off the bye. Hobbs, that was a bad game for Nate Hobbs. He was consistently getting beat. It was a struggle, to be honest with you. I think Carrington Valentine is a better corner than Nate Hobbs, and we might see that play out a little bit down the stretch. But I was disappointed in the game that Nate Hobbs had tonight. Josh Jacobs, S or an A, this is tough. I'm going to go with an S tier. He was the leading receiver. He almost got up to about 4 yards per carry for the first time all year when I feel like he's been really, really struggling. He got 2 touchdowns tonight. Like I said, he also led the team in receiving. His pass blocking I thought was very solid as well. I think Josh Jacobs had his best game this season, expecting much more of that going forward. I said last week that I kind of anticipate him getting in the box once, if not twice, and that's what he did. So it's a good bounce back spot for Josh Jacobs, and I still think there's some more room for improvement going forward. Let's see. We got Elton Jenkins. I'm going to put him at a B. I think Elton Jenkins he was pretty decent for pass blocking. He had that whack penalty, which was just terrible. Moving that ball in the goal line area was just that's a terrible call by the officiating. We didn't even touch on the officiating, but I thought they were horrible all night. But Elton Jenkins, to me, I felt had a solid game. He was probably one of the better offensive linemen for the Packers in that game. Tucker Kraft, an A. Tucker Kraft, week after week, is just consistently an A player. He is so good. He had 5 targets. I wish that he honestly had more. I truthfully wish he was a guy that would get 6 to 8 targets every single game. He just does such a good job when the ball is in his hands. His yards after catch, his ability to block, his hands are strong. He almost had 2 touchdowns, got tackled down to 1 on both. It was a great game from Tucker Kraft. Jordan Love, our guy, S tier. Awesome game for Love. The best game he's had all year. Multiple clutch game-tying or game-winning drives towards the end of that game. Just diced this Dallas defense up. 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards, about 70% completion percentage. Awesome game from J. Love. Isaiah McDuffie, I felt like was actually one of the better defensive players for us. He didn't play tons of snaps. I want to say he played about 20-ish snaps. He had 23 snaps, but I thought his run defense was pretty solid. Wasn't out in coverage much. Doesn't rush the passer much, but I felt like Isaiah McDuffie was a pretty impactful guy, I guess, when it came to the run game. So I like him as a B there. All right, Xavier McKinney. I'm going to put Xavier McKinney at a B. I felt like he was solid. Again, I feel like some of the safeties, Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney, was much better than some of our corners. We didn't really get burnt deep too much from these guys. So Xavier McKinney for me is going to be a B. Brandon McManus, it's going to be an A. The kick was blocked. Again, that's not his fault. Those were not his fault. He had multiple clutch kicks for the Packers late in this game. I thought McManus did his job. He's going to be an A. Keyshawn Nixon, I'm going to put him at a C. And to be honest with you, I thought there was a strong chance he could have been an A or B player towards the beginning of this game because he was playing really well. He had a good pass block. late in that game, that pass towards the end where, was it Cavante Turpin or maybe Jalen Tolbert? I can't remember who it was, but it was where Dak kind of scrambled out and just off one leg threw that ball 40, 50 yards down the field, and Keyshawn Nixon was in the end zone and didn't even make a play on the ball. It was like he thought the ball was getting thrown away. And that was towards the end of the game where they caught the ball at like the 3 or 4 yard line and ended up scoring. He just not locked in. You simply could not have lapses of judgment like that in these type of games. You can't. So for that, he's a C this week. Micah Parsons has an A. Let's see. I think he went at 10. He had 10 total pressures, a couple hurries. He had that sack. In addition, that sack was a game-winning sack, right? Like, I shouldn't say game-winning because we didn't win. He saved the Packers from losing that game, right? If he doesn't sack Dak there at the end, I think Dak probably gets in the end zone, and the Packers ultimately probably lose that game. Granted, that could have changed how LaFleur's aggressiveness versus conservativeness kind of would have played out late, but Micah Parsons, I thought, played at a really high level. He's consistently getting double-teamed. I think he gets held almost every single play. They just don't call it. So I thought Micah had a really strong game. To me, he was by far the best defender for the Packers. Rasheed Walker, that's a D. Rasheed Walker just not very good, man. It's a struggle. I know Jordan Morgan has not been very good. We'll talk about him after a bit as well. But I think Jordan Morgan is a better left tackle than Rasheed Walker is. It's that simple. I just think he is a better left tackle, and I would be interested to see what would happen if the Packers made that move. Maybe that's something they look to do after the bye week. But Rasheed Walker, I thought, was a liability. I just don't think he's very good. This offensive line is a little... They're banged up, but it's worrisome, is this offensive line. Sean Ryan, I thought Sean Ryan... All right, Sean Ryan, that's a D. It was terrible. Multiple penalties with this team in the red zone. Sorry, not just the red zone, inside the 5-yard line, at the goal line, multiple times. He was a terrible pass blocker tonight. I thought this was a really bad game once again for our offensive linemen, but specifically Rasheed Walker and Sean Ryan. Quay Walker, I'm going to give him a C. I thought he did a good job with his tackling, but as far as coverage goes, he was pretty bad. He allowed 5 or 6 catches, if I want to say almost 55, 60 yards, something like that. I thought he struggled in coverage pretty bad. He was consistently getting beat by his man. I thought Javonte Williams was kind of piecing him up a little bit too. Jake Ferguson was having his way. It was a tough night for Quay Walker. Daniel Whelan. All right, Daniel Whelan, he's an A. He only had 2 punts. He did a good job of his punting. They were like 43, 42 yards, something like that. But where the Packers were when they punted, sometimes around like the 40 to 50-yard line. He didn't need a big, long punt because Packers were able to move the ball. But he did his job. Solid player. Not much to say there. All right, Colby Wooden. It's a D. I thought he was terrible from a run defense's perspective. Just simply not good enough. Just consistently just missing tackles. I actually want to correct that. I'm not sure if he actually was credited with any missed tackles. It was just he was very poor in his execution. He was consistently getting pushed over by the offensive line. A lot of missed assignments from Colby Wooden. To me, clearly a D player. Devontae White, I'm actually going to put in a B. He only got to play 13-plus snaps because he got hurt, but I felt like his impact for this team is so high, and it was clear. When he went out of this game, this team struggled, specifically against the run. That's really when Javonte Williams started to have his way. I think he's a very impactful player, so hopefully he can rest up and get back outside of the bye. All right, Javon Bullard is a C. I thought he was okay. In coverage, I didn't feel like he was that great. Allowed several catches, 20, 30, 40 yards on those. It was a tough game for Javon Bullard. But like I said, that's kind of the case with all the corners, to be honest. Matt LaFleur, I got to do it. It's D. Like I said, the conservative nature of the way that he handled this game, not only from early on when it comes to like the 4th and 2 at the 50, not be willing to go for that, the right before the first half, trying to make something happen with 16 seconds left or 19 seconds left from your own 16 that resulted in a fumble. Like, you never should have put Jordan Love in that situation. I thought that was very poor by Matt. And then obviously the overtime stuff was just completely inexcusable. And I felt like he absolutely hindered this team's ability to win a game. He did. So it's a D for Matt LaFleur. Carrington Valentine, it's a D. I know I just said that I felt like he's a better corner than Nate Hobbs. That was not shown this week. It was really bad. I think he allowed 5 or 6 catches for almost 80-plus yards. He was just getting beat all night. It was a very, very bad night for him and all the corners, to be quite honest with you. All right, Lucas Van Ness, I'm going to put it a B. I thought he was a little bit of a bright spot. I didn't think like he was very good into the run like he has been the past weeks, but I felt like, unlike Rashawn Gary, he did a pretty decent job of getting pressure on the quarterback. He had multiple pressures, multiple hurries. So I thought he at least did his job. You know what, though? Honestly, I got to put him at a C. You give up 40 points, we cannot have multiple defensive guys in the B. You just can't. Again, I thought he was okay. He was much better than Rashawn Gary. But I expect him to be better in the run, right? And I expect him to get more than 2 or 3 pressures on the quarterback as well when Micah Parsons on the other side of the ball. I just do. All right, Dontavian Wicks, I'm going to give him a C. I mean, he had 4 targets for 2 catches. It's just kind of clear that it feels like he's behind Romeo. He's behind Matthew Golden, definitely behind Tucker Kraft. So he's not getting a ton of opportunity, but I felt like he just didn't make as many big plays. I want to say he might have had a drop this game. I'm honestly not 100% for sure. We just didn't see much of Dontavian Wicks this week. Jeff Hafley, got to put him at a D. It's tough sometimes to rate these coaches compared to rating these players because we don't know who is necessarily at fault a lot of these times. Was the scheme bad? Were the players just not performing and executing the way they should? But you simply cannot give up 40 points to the Dallas Cowboys without CeeDee Lamb and without their offensive line. It just did not make adjustments. And in fact, I felt like the team consistently got worse late in the game. Right? Jordan Love goes and takes that lead with a minute and a half left. And within a minute and a half, you literally allow them to drive the field in 3 plays and score a touchdown. Coaches have got to be held accountable here. All right, let's see. Here's Pistachio. That's a D. I think I might need to create an F tier because he would just live in that F tier. It is so disappointing. I was so excited when the Packers got him years ago. I thought he was a high-level special teams coach. The Packers rewarded him as the highest-paid special coordinator in the league. And he has just consistently failed this team. The special teams is an absolute disaster. And I do not say this lightly when I think he should be fired. It's that simple. All right, Anthony Belton, he was also out. Got to move him over. As well, Malik Heath, I mean, I'll put him at a B. He's just a very limited role player, but I think he caught his only catch. I do feel like Malik Heath is consistently just one of the more reliable guys on this team. Very rarely makes mistakes. When his name is called, he does his job. It'll be a B, but I want to say he might have played, snaps? He played 19 snaps. 19 snaps, actually, but he did his job when he was out there. Jordan Morgan is a C. I felt like he did a better job from a pass blocking standpoint, but there were still multiple penalties that were called on him. And this is just kind of a consistent theme that absolutely needs to get fixed. I truthfully believe that he is a much better left tackle than he is anywhere else, specifically left guard. I think he needs to make the switch with Rasheed Walker, and I feel like he would become a much more impactful player for this team. The Packers have been doing him no favors by playing him all over. Let him find a home and let's see him kind of develop into that role. Like I said, I do think that Jordan Morgan had a better game than he did last week. That is for sure. Still too many penalties. All right, Darian Kennard. I'm gonna put him at a C. Again, there were multiple penalties on him, some key ones inside the goal line that felt like kind of killed the Packers' momentum at times. But I do feel like from a pass blocking standpoint that he was actually pretty good. I feel like that he's been much better than some of these other guys have been. You know, the Aaron Banks and Anthony Belton. He's a far cry, obviously, from our guy Zach Tom, who hopefully with this bye week can get healthy. But I thought that he did a decent job, and I thought he was much better than like a Rasheed Walker and Sean Ryan in this situation. So, guys, that's going to do it. Let me know in the comments if you think a player should be up above, a player down below. As you can see, we got a little bit more players in the C and D range these last couple weeks than we did the first 2. Let's hope that coming out of this bye, week 6 against the Cincinnati Bengals, that this Packers team is rejuvenated, refueled. This team is going to be healthy, and this team is going to be able to make some waves and turn into that team that we thought they were going to be after these first couple weeks. It's a long, long season, guys. Let's make sure that we hang in there. I know we can be upset, and it's okay to be upset. We have high expectations for this team year after year, and this kind of feels like it should be the year. It's still a learning curve. Still the youngest team in the league, right? This team didn't get a full offseason, specifically defensively. Let's slow our roll, and let's relax. Good things are coming. I'm optimistic about it. So, like I said, let me know in the comments if anything's changed. Let me know your feelings about the game. We can all vent about it. We can talk about it. We're on the same team. We may agree, we may disagree, and that's okay. But like I said, that's going to do it for today, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Go Pack Go.